So here's the start I was going to do before I forgot to press record. And the start is, all yoga is Kundalini yoga. Did you know that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Prove it. All yoga is meant to lift the energy up through the central channel inside the spine towards the crown. Talk about chakras and all of these things. Every yoga is Kundalini yoga. Unless, of course, it isn't yoga, but that's another class. Calling out all the fake yogas. I won't do that. But all yoga is Kundalini yoga. So what's Kundalini? The nice way to say it, the clear way to say it is it's a light. Right? How many people were in the class yesterday? Put your hand up. Oh, good. So I can cover some of the stuff. The way to describe this that makes sense, and the way that Guru Nanak, the Udasi Yogi, who passed these teachings on through the 10 gurus and the Sikh lineage down all the way up to Yogi Bhajan and through our teachers like Guru Singh, Guru Jagat, and all of you here, all the masters. He described this as Ad Sach, Jugad Sach, Habi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach. It means you were born with infinite worth. You have infinite worth your whole life. Whether you acknowledge that or not is up to you. You have infinite worth even now where you're sitting, and you'll always have infinite worth. And a good way to look at it is to think about what is the value of a child when they're born. You can't say. There's no price tag. Am I right? So it's true. You're born with infinite worth. And then something happens. You start believing otherwise. What causes you to believe otherwise? There's a yogic word. It starts with a K. Your karmas, your life conditions. Could be the parents' life conditions you were born to. It could even be previous parents from your line that influence you to forget your infinite worth. You may even have a childhood that goes pretty good up to like 12 or 13, and then you forget your infinite worth. At some point, your karma will cause you to think, well, maybe I'm not that great. Right? And whether you acknowledge your infinite worth as you go is up to you. It's completely up to you. It's a challenge, though, you know, because we get all these patterns going on inside of our mind. And some of those patterns, like I said, aren't even from you. The yogis say 7 generations before you, you carry the karmas. And they show up. It's like if you're dating a beautiful person and they say, I'm never going to be like my mother. And you date them for a while, and then you get married and you have children. And then you start seeing these little patterns that remind you of your mother-in-law. Should you tell her that she's acting like her mother? No. But you notice it. It just starts to happen. It's from karma, you know. And so Kundalini, the light of Kundalini, is a practice to remove any of the blockages that happen from karma that keep you from you. That's what it is. And that's what all yoga is for. The word yoga means oneness with God. Is God something outside of you? No. It's you. It's the best version of you. Right? How could it be outside of you? You have this concept of an infinite God, and it's outside of you. It's no longer infinite if it's outside of you. It's finite. It creates duality. There's God over there, and here's me over here. How could that be? What did we say was the value of a baby at birth? Infinite. The proof is right there. And then we create all these belief systems. A lot of the belief systems came up to try and manipulate and control people. Even with Kundalini Yoga. Have you ever heard this before? Oh, you practice Kundalini Yoga, it's dangerous. Yeah. And that comes all the way down from 500 years ago when Guru Nanak started teaching that there was this concept called ekankar. You know what that means? There's one God. Truth is its name, and we're that. And he said, there's no Hindus and there's no Muslims, there's none of all of that, there's just oneness, and we're all of it. And it started to catch on. And the Brits were in power at the time and doing their divide and conquer techniques. And if everybody starts coming together and saying, we're one, you got a problem on your hands. If you want to divide and conquer, that's duality. Us versus them, draw a line in the sand, die for the flag. That shit's still going on today. But you have all these people doing these practices that say we're one, and they remove any kind of mind control from happening. And you know who you are in relationship to your conditions. What do the people in power start to input into the people? Oh, that's dangerous. You shouldn't do that. Tell your kids not to do Kundalini Yoga. I don't know about you, but since I've done Kundalini Yoga, I've become more rebellious in the best way possible. It works. I'm not just going to do something because somebody said do it. I'm going to test it out. You know, in the Buddhist practices, empirical wisdom is the most important thing. It means empirical experience. What does the word empirical mean? It means beyond theory. Like you just know something to be true. If you just know something to be true, don't let somebody tell you otherwise. Right? That's what Kundalini Yoga is for. And if you don't know something to be true, and somebody tells you some practice that will connect you to you, what should you do? Test it out. Right? Isn't that what the Buddha taught? He said, don't believe anything I say. Try it. If it doesn't work, get rid of it. And at the bottom of that is Scripture. Because Scripture can lead to the test, and the test can lead to the wisdom of experience. But some things you'll just know already. Am I right? Like sometimes you just know. You didn't have to learn it. You just have a feeling. Doesn't that happen to you? Like, where do I go from here? I have to read it in a book. No, you just know. Because what were you born as? Infinite worth. So the practice of Kundalini Yoga is learning to listen to the voice of your own soul. If you don't like the word soul, call it something else. It doesn't matter. If there's a God, there isn't a God, it really doesn't matter. As long as you connect to the infinite value you were born with. That's what this is for. Anybody talk about that in your group? Sort of? Yeah. So Kundalini means to take action as the best version of you. That's what it is. Even the word brahmacharya, have you heard the word in yoga? Brahmacharya? It got turned into this word that means celibacy. It doesn't mean that. It's twisted. Brahma, what does the word Brahma mean? God, right? The word acharya, it means action. Do you hear anything about don't have sex in there? Brahmacharya means take action as God, which isn't something outside of you. Some people this will rub the wrong way, but my teacher Guru Singh says we're going to have to ruffle some feathers, but we'll do it with a hug. You know, it's the best version of you. That's what brahmacharya is. Take action as the best version of you. The challenge is listening to the voice of the best version of you. Right? Because there's all these things to think about. All this outside influence. You know Esther Hicks, she channels for Abraham. You heard of her before? Abraham gave this message through her, and it's a great one, where he said, this is for all of you humans. Your parents are not your spirit guides. So remember that. Thank you, Abraham. It's a good reminder. Usually they're not. They have their own karmas. You probably showed up as their teacher, actually, for the most part. I don't know about your experience. It's a big challenge to be a good teacher to your parents. Like Ram Dass, he's saying, you think you're pretty enlightened doing all of these practices? Go live with your folks for a month and see how enlightened you are. All of a sudden, all of your peace and love and burning sage is gone. Oh, I hate my dad. He's the worst. It's a challenge. And I spoke about this in the session yesterday about mental clarity. This practice, the most important component of Kundalini Yoga is mental clarity. It's not only to be spiritual, it's not only to be physical. It's to gain mental clarity. Because if you have mental clarity, you'll be able to hear your own voice without all the noise. Right? What did the sage Patanjali say yoga is? The end of the mental noise. That's what it is. You start to be able to listen to who you are. And what's the big, profound, simple teaching from this guy on my t-shirt? Just be you. That's it. And people even attach to some of the stuff in Kundalini Yoga. They start to follow all of the teachings dogmatically. My teacher he was the first Westerner to put a turban on. He's been doing Kundalini Yoga for 49 years, and he says, Yogi Bhajan needs to be demystified. He's not different than you. In fact, if this lineage is to continue, you need to be 10 times better than Yogi Bhajan. So if you turn him into some god, you miss the point. You see him as a great person who understood who they were, and then you be that, as you. Right? Or if you read in Bhagavad Gita, it says it's better to live your own dharma poorly than the dharma of another well. If you saw my good friend Danielle Laporte last night, she'll tell you straight up, even the missteps are leading you to you. You think, oh, I screwed up really big this time. It's all leading you to you. And Kundalini Yoga gives you a means so that you don't have to get these like big time slaps upside the head. You'll catch it at a stern whisper. Instead of like everything falls apart and you're like, no, here we are again. Why, God? You're asking yourself that, right? Why have I done this to myself again? So ultimately, Kundalini is a practice of gaining mental clarity and a practice of energy management. You learn how to move energy so that you can live according to your identity rather than according to your karmas or conditions. You're not your conditions, right? You were born with what? Infinite worth. You know it. And then you forget. And the great practice that you learn to do as you practice Kundalini Yoga is to forgive yourself right away when you make a mistake. Right away. Don't carry that shit around with you. For what? There's not a free pass to behave badly. That's not the best version of you. Is this coming through clearly? Yes, sir. I was talking to a friend yesterday about, I think about energy management as like mental real estate. How much real estate do the things that you do as practices in your life occupy? It's like drinking alcohol. It's not right or wrong. It depends how much mental real estate it takes up. Like some people say, oh, I'm going to have a glass of wine with dinner, that's all I have. And then one day they have 2 glasses of wine. And then later in the week they have a few more, and then they feel bad about it. And inside their head they're going, I shouldn't have had that glass of wine. Well, maybe I shouldn't drink. Well, tomorrow I'll just have a glass of wine. And then, maybe I won't have any the next day because I had 2 before. And then blah, 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 blah. You see how much mental real estate it takes up? Imagine if that whole process was going on out loud, but nobody would want to go near them. There's a drinking problem. It's not about whether you're, drinking a 2-6 of vodka every day. It's about how much mental real estate does it take. Because if it was just a glass of wine, guess what? All that chatter wouldn't be there. If the chatter's there, it's your mind telling you, you should probably take a look at this. My teacher would always say he'd go to Yogi Bhajan when he was really stuck in his head like that. And the sound current of his speech was like this. That's when you're stuck in your head. It sounds like that. Not the words, the sound vibration. And you know what Yogi Ji would say to him? Bolt your butt to the mat, shut up and don't move till I tell you you can. And he would be sitting there and the sound current would still be going in his head, making me sit here, he doesn't understand, stupid, blah, 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 keep going. And eventually it would just fizzle out. And then Yogi Ji would say, okay, you can go now. And the Buddha taught this. If you sit with it, every emotion will turn to joy. But if you carry on with the chatter, it becomes all this, if you do that as a practice, it becomes neuroses. And then whatever's going on in the attic shows up on the main floor. Like if you keep stuffing boxes in the attic, eventually it's on the main floor. So we do these practices to unpack the boxes. Doesn't mental real estate make sense? The word human means light mind. Not mind hoarder. You got to unpack that stuff. So that the life force energy can be directed where it's needed. Because you are a master. Who gives you the authority to live like that? You do. Not me, not Yogi Bhajan, nothing, nobody. You show up as the best version of you. That's why we don't initiate anybody in this tradition. How could we initiate anybody? Can I come to your house and make sure you got up and did the meditation I told you to do? Like Santa Claus going to all the students' houses, checking to see if they got up? I mean, there's no way. Yogi Ji said I'd be an idiot to do that. He used that word. So we got to keep the energy moving and the body open. We look at yoga as stretching. Do you hear me saying anything about stretching? If you have pain and suffering in your body, you know what's going to happen? It's going to clog up a lot of the mental real estate. Have you been sick before? What are you thinking about when you're sick? 2 things. One is, I hope I get better. And the other is, I'm sick. And then there's this whole drama attached to the whole thing. Like I like Guru Jagat talking about when you get up, you have sadhana sickness. Like, oh, I'm sick, I can't practice. Like there's this whole mental trip about it. So if the body's healthy, you'll have mental clarity. Well, how do you get the body healthy? Well, you have to follow all these rules. No, it's not like that. You pay attention. This works, this doesn't work. You become like an alchemist in your own life. Don't worry about the rules. The scriptures in that ladder I was telling you about are on the bottom. I'm not saying you get rid of it. It may serve you, but it's not the point. Right? Empirical experience is at the top. You testing it out as the master is in the middle. And if you're really lost, look down here and you'll find a way to go through the pattern. And the Dalai Lama talks about this. He said if science found out that the practices we do, there's like a hole or they don't work, we just stop doing the practice. We don't keep doing it because the Buddha said. We don't approach science like that. Well, Newton said this, so I know all the facts say otherwise, but Newton said it, so we have to follow that. It's absurd. Don't you have the capacity to understand what's good for you? Weren't you born with infinite worth? You see how they wanted the people to stop doing Kundalini Yoga? It's called unapologetic human sovereignty. That's a good word for Kundalini Yoga. UHS. And I'm not saying you throw out the traditions. The traditions are great. It's like you acknowledge all the traditions, and then you learn to move freely within them. Somebody asked Yogi Ji once, as a Sikh, do you celebrate Christmas? He said, of course. I celebrate any chance I get. It's a good teaching. So it's not really about stretching, but there could be a stretching component to it. Right? Yoga as a whole, as a science, is a methodology with many, many facets and practices to promote self-awareness. This isn't a new idea that I came up with. If you read in all the different traditions, they say yoga is self-realization. That's what it is. It's not something outside of you. But you may chant to something that appears to be outside of you for a while, and until you realize it's you, that may lead you there. Or one of the great practices of yoga to connect to who you are is to feed people. You know? How do you feel when you share food with people? Good. You feel connected. Even if it's just having your friend to dinner and you feed them. You're designed for that. You relied on somebody to feed you as you were being formed. Connected at the navel. You know how I know it's true? Look down. One time I was teaching a yoga class and this really sweet Brazilian lady came after and her English was not that great. And she said, I love the class. Just one question. What's a navel? Your belly button. Oh, that makes sense. Pretty funny. Just keep cruising through here. We'll move to prosperity and then we'll do a couple of exercises. So Yogi Ji, he said it. You got to be 10 times better than him. And 10 is just a number. It just means a lot better than him. And this is also in the Western tradition, and they get omitted in the marketing of Western religion. Like even JC himself, you know who that is? Jesus. He said you can do miracles even greater than this, and it's still left in the text and everybody forgets it. They put him as the one and only. The teaching's right there. Even in the marketing, they didn't manipulate it, they left it as is, and people still miss it. There is no hierarchy in yoga. It's a level playing field. It's not, oh, the great Swami so-and-so, and here we are, the lowly peasants. Bullshit. Told you we got to ruffle some feathers, right? Who has the capacity to be the master? Everybody. Who has the capacity to live as the Buddha? Everybody. Not the select so-and-so. I mean, they had this problem in India when Guru Nanak came around. If you were born low caste and you even heard the Vedas being chanted, they'd pour molten lead in your ear. Or if a low caste person's shadow touched your food, they'd throw it out. This is where the teaching of Ekankar came from. How could this person, because of their conditions where they're born, be less than you because of where you were born? It doesn't make sense. We know it's true. Everybody's born with infinite worth. So that leads us to what is prosperity. This is about prosperity, right? This class. Pro means in favor of, right? Like if I'm pro Jeremy, I'm in favor of Jeremy. And the word sparity comes from the word spiritu, which means what? Spirit. To be in favor of you. Yogi Bhajan used the word security to describe this, and he had it bang on as a man and as a great teacher. You could have all the money, all the toys, look good on paper, and be completely insecure. You understand what prosperity is now, right? You could also have all the money, all the toys, look good on paper, and be completely secure. You could also have nothing, no material things, and be completely secure. You could have cancer and be completely secure. You could have cancer and be insecure. Do you understand? It means you know who you are in relationship to the conditions. This great yogi, Ramana Maharishi, when he got sick in his life, all of the followers and devotees started to weep and wail that they were going to lose their teacher. And you know what he said? Not in these words, I'm going to make my own language, but the sentiment is the same. He said, "You idiots, didn't I teach you anything? I'm not sick. My body's sick. Eventually the body goes. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you can drink some green juice, do some chaturangas, try and keep your 24-year-old body for your whole life, but I'm sorry, it's going to change. But if you know who you are in relationship to that, you enjoy your life. How could I die? If you want to do a favor when you die, instead of putting your body in a box or burning your bones and everything, just have them dump your body into the dirt the way it is, and then it's good for the soil. No big deal, just dump me in the ground. Well, I mean, it's real. But we have all these attachments to the conditions. So true prosperity is to live a life in favor of you. But it means the whole you. Not me and mine and what do I get out of this. Do you know the word stewardship? What does it mean? Anybody know? Yeah, to take care. Not ownership, stewardship. Like, you think that your body you live in right now is your body, but it's on lease, man. You got to give it back at the end. It's true. Nobody gets to keep it. Doesn't matter where you went. Hertz or budget or this or that or black or white or gay or straight or what, doesn't matter. You're returning it at the end. And we're interested in yoga in the you, the part that borrowed the body. It's called consciousness. It's the most valuable resource that there is. So to live a prosperous life is to live a life connected to your consciousness. It doesn't mean you don't take care of the rental car. Have you ever got a rental car and just not taken care of it? You have to pay at the end. It's called karma. Kind of funny. There are two major energetic challenges in our times, and they happen in two main centers in the energetic system, which coincidentally Yogi Bhajan called the two twilight zones. One is the navel and one is the center of the brain. The center of the brain, the issue with the center of the brain is getting caught in two-dimensional thinking. Good, bad, right, wrong, this, that, all of that sort of stuff. I'm a this and you're a that. The problem is if you get caught in two-dimensional thinking, you get lost in this. I'm right and somebody's got to be wrong. That's a hard way to live. I have a 5-year-old. Try to argue with a 5-year-old. You have to be smart. It's called, the Buddha called it skillful means. It's like slipping the kale in the strawberry smoothie and then telling your child that you just left the tops on the strawberries. You didn't want to be wasteful. Really, you're slipping in extra greens and everything. Look over there. And then the other is, so we develop the meditative mind, so we're not so controlled by duality. And this shows up through a lot of different teachings. Buddha talked about it, Krishna talked about it when he explained yoga. Guru Gobind Singh talked about it in the Rayman Shabad. He said, the sage sits, and life is like the potter's wheel, and angels and devils come flying off the potter's wheel, and the sage is not affected by any of them. The sage doesn't pretend they're not there, or say there's only angels and everything's fine, or there's only devils and we're all screwed. The sage acknowledges all of it and knows who they are in relationship to it all. You know the potter's wheel, like in the movie Ghost? That's you and the beloved. Just teasing. And then the other is the navel. And the imbalance at the navel is selfishness, ownership, instead of, what was the word again? Stewardship. Ownership says what? This is mine, not yours. And what does stewardship say? This is ours. It's all ours. Even pain and suffering. Put your hand up if you never experienced pain and suffering. Not a single hand. That's how we know it's all of ours. It's not unique to one person or one group or one, the Hertz people or the budget people or the... It's all of our suffering. Because of identifying with our conditions and forgetting who we are. And so we'll deal a little bit with the navel and prosperity today. I know you already did stretch pose, so don't worry if you're freaking out. Oh, I wanted to add one more thing before we do that, and that is that in relationship to prosperity, money is not evil. Okay? That's why all the Kundalini Yoga teachers have Mercedes-Benz. No, I'm just kidding. No, Yogi said that money is what money does. It's neutral. It's just like the security thing I was talking about. If you don't have any food in your cupboard, how can you serve anyone? And Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth and prosperity. And you know who her husband is? Narayana, the god of the universe. So if you want favor with the God of the universe, don't smack talk his wife. Speak sweetly about her. See abundance everywhere. Share your resources, and you'll gain a lot of favor. Just watch. And then when you start gripping and grasping and scheming and trying to take, resistance will show up and teach you. Called the Saturn teacher. You know the Saturn finger is this finger. My teacher, Guru Singh, has this amazing story where Yogi Ji's teaching to these very proper older people. And they've come out of the place where the teaching is, and they're standing on the street, and it's him and Yogi Ji with their turbans on, and this car drives by and goes, "Nice ragheads," and drives off, some racist thing, right? And you know what Yogi Bhajan does? And the people say, "Sir, do you know what that means?" And he said, "Yes, it means may your lessons be long and challenging." Still teaching even here, right? All right. Let's tune in. That was a long intro. All right, sit tall. Rub the palms together. Press the hands in prayer at your heart center. Close the eyes. When we chant Ong Namo Gurudev Namo, it means exactly what I'm talking about today. Not that I bow to the government, not that I bow to any kind of institution, not that I bow to any sort of rules or dogma, but I bow to the part of me that was born with infinite worth, that has infinite worth the whole time, that has infinite worth even now, and that will always have infinite worth. That's a good reminder, you hear it? Listen up, grown-ups. He's right. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. Breathe in.